If it feels good, do it. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Honestly, it's so simple. And there were times, say for example, squatting, like back squats, felt really weird. And I would look into that. Well, it makes sense. There's your body does change. There's that hormone prolactin. It makes your joints a bit looser because you're getting ready for pregnancy. It's quite logical. It didn't feel right. There's a reason it doesn't feel right. So I kind of just stopped doing it. But everything else, I just went for it.
I'm Kitty Blutefield, co-founder of New Strength and Saturée, creator of pro-metabolic food supplements and seriously saturated skincare. And today I have my friend Tammie on the podcast, the beautiful Tammie. She's gorgeous on the inside and out, and she is in incredible shape too. She's competed at high levels in bodybuilding. I think don't you hold the Australian, like in bodybuilding? Didn't you compete at? Anyway, let's just tell everyone who you are and all the things you've accomplished and what you do.
My name's Tammie Sarkozy. I've been in the fitness industry 13 plus years. And I'm here today because I just had a baby who's 4.5 months old, bless his soul. He's asleep right now. But, if we talk about my accomplishments, I've been involved in bodybuilding for a long time. So if we rewind, I think I did 8 or so shows between 2011 and 2014. And in that time, I accomplished 2 Australian titles and a world title, and then a Universe Pro title. And after I took a break from bodybuilding because I fell deep into the CrossFit hole. If you start that, you fall in deep, and I went in the whole way. We got a team together and competed in the CrossFit Games as well.
Oh, that's so cool.
Then came back, did bodybuilding because I was so injured. CrossFit was like, you need a break. So I thought I'd do safe again, bodybuilding, and got back into it. But instead this time fitness, whereas before I was figure. Went down that path because without sounding full of myself, figure in Australia, I just felt the competition naturally wasn't there.
Yeah, well, you've got an incredible physique. Tammie's, it's because you've worked hard too, but I think genetically, like, she's short, she's amazing. So, like, you've obviously put the years of work into, but you've just got this incredible physique. You're right. Like, it's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Go check her out. Go stalk her. Every time she posts this, I'm like, oh, fire emoji. I'm like, look at those glutes. Look at that ass. I can't help myself. But you do have an incredible, because you've competed in WBFF, hey?
Yeah, so then after I was like, I can't do figure anymore because the competition's not there. I feel I've surpassed that. So I stepped up to WBFF, which I do think WBFF and IFBB, they are a step up from those other federations. I'm like, right, I'm not big enough for figure here, but I'm the right size for fitness. So I went down that path, and then I got my pro card.
Yeah, and you're so beautiful too. Like, I think for WFF, you've got to be like, it's like you're a model and you're a fitness, like with all the muscle too. So, yeah, you look so beautiful with all your big costumes and stuff.
All that stuff, yeah, thank you.
Do you think you'll ever do it again?
Oh, you know what? Some days I'm like, yeah, and other days I'm like, priorities kind of change. Like, I just love this little bubba so much. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't give a fuck about my body. Not in the way. But
then about competing again.
Yeah, but it's unfinished business because, I got that pro card and I was getting ready for the pro show, and then COVID happened 8 weeks out of the show. And in the back of my head, it's this nagging little, haven't finished what you started. So we'll see.
Maybe when he's older, a bit older, you think? Yeah.
And I'm 45.
Yeah, well, because I can only imagine too, like, obviously competing is stressful and takes a lot out of you. To try and do it with a young baby would be difficult.
I reckon at this point I could do it. But in saying that, at this point, I can put him in a chair and he sits because he can't crawl, he can't do stuff. Yeah. So I don't know what the toddler world is like. Maybe I'm assuming
I think it's pretty bad. I'm like, from what I've seen from my friends, I'm like, it's relentless, never ending. Like, you can't keep your eyes off you can't turn around for 2 seconds.
Yeah. So perhaps that might be a different story. Yeah.
Maybe one day. So haven't closed the door, just maybe.
I haven't closed the door, but right now, probably not on my radar. No.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, so that's what Tammie does. So you coach women. So you just coach women in general, like normal women, not who are not getting on stage, or you mostly...
Small percentage on stage.
Yeah.
But my heart is really, I just love helping women, probably between, say, 30s, 40s, 50s, because they're at a place where they feel so lost and like they've let themselves go. And I don't mean, I'm not a weight loss coach, right? But I'm more of a body recomp coach, and I get so much joy from it because there's these people, most of them have had kids. They feel like they've lost themselves to a career or their kids or whatever, and they need to do something for themselves again.
Yeah.
They're my favorite type of client because I get to help them kind of rediscover themselves through health and fitness, and it just brings them so much happiness. And I find that so rewarding because it surpasses just the physical. It's so mental. Yeah. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. And why I wanted to get Tammie on was just to talk about, because I get a lot of questions from women about training during pregnancy. Yeah, and women are scared to train during pregnancy. And, you know, some people will say don't train at all. You've been through that, and I've watched you train right up till you gave birth. Which
literally the day of.
Yeah. So can you talk about that?
Well, yeah. So to start, when I found out I was pregnant, one of the first things I thought was, what the hell do I do with training? It's such a blank hole. You can Google it, you ask doctors, and everyone's too afraid to really say, yes, do this, because, you know, if I hurt myself, I can go sue someone. It's such a liability. So I was like, shit, I need to figure this out. Let's just go straight to the top. I spoke to my friends, you know, heavily involved in CrossFit. Cara Saunders, I don't know if you know her. She's like a top world top CrossFit athlete. She's got a little bubba and pregnant again. I watched her the whole way through. We'd had conversations about it, and I'm like, if she can do it, so can I. If my other friends, you know, they're in powerlifting, CrossFit, if they can do it, why can't I? So I just picked their brains a little bit, and they just gave me some really loose advice. If it feels good, do it. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Honestly, it's so simple. And there were times, say, for example, squatting, like back squats, felt really weird. And, you know, and I would look into that. Well, it makes sense. You know, there's your body does change. There's that hormone prolactin. It makes your joints a bit looser because you're getting ready for pregnancy. It's quite logical. It didn't feel right. There's a reason it doesn't feel right. So I kind of just stopped doing it. But everything else, I just went for it.
And then as you got more pregnant, did you sort of the intensity come back a bit, or did you have the same?
Well, I just went by feel. I was still going to CrossFit, mainly because I just wanted human connection because I work from home. So I'd go to CrossFit. Some days I'd be like, fuck yeah, and I'd go nuts. And other days I'm like, I feel like I have slept 1 hour. I'm just going to plod along. And it would just be a day-by-day thing. And anytime I had that energy, I'd be like, yeah, and I'd go for it.
Yeah, wow. It's so, like, seems so logical. Like, is there really, what about the breathing, like the pelvic floor breathing? Did you have to breathe in a different way? Because I've read that too, you don't, like, this is what I've read. Like, you know, like in a normal, you'd be squatting or whatever you do, you like breathe in, you'd hold it and brace at the bottom. Like I've read that you shouldn't brace it, like you breathe through. Is that true? Like, is that what you did, or?
I didn't do that at all.
No.
So, you know, I was told by the doctor, you know, practice your pelvic floor breathing, and they'd give me some. But in terms of exercise, I didn't get that advice once. And I had, after I was pregnant, a few people had sent me some, I guess, links to should you breathe like this or not. And I was like, I never did that once. I breathed like I always would. But I also think because I've trained so long, my pelvic floor was already strong.
Yeah.
And I did practice pelvic floor breathing, which has it been explained to you what that is, what you do?
No. Well, I've read about it, but not like practiced it.
Well, okay, you can do this with me.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You're going to love this. Imagine there's a blade of grass.
Yeah.
And you're picking it up with your vagina.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you're like picking it up.
Yeah.
And then you pull your butthole in.
Yeah. I'm doing it.
Yeah. That is,
You obviously can't see.
no, so you just do it when you're walking down the street. No one knows. So that's kind of, that's training your pelvic floor.
Yeah, wow.
What's happened to me after all of this, you know, you have a pelvic floor physio, and my issue was it was too strong.
Ah.
So in hindsight, I probably didn't need to do that stuff. It was probably already strong, because I think when you brace for heavy lifting, you naturally do that.
Yeah.
It's a part of that entire, you know, bracing your spine. So now I've had to do training where I relax my pelvic floor.
Oh, interesting.
Really hard, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you're so used to you doing it for so long.
Going, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And did you have a natural birth?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it was all fine?
That was the worst experience of my life. It was, my birth was not beautiful. I can't even pretend to say it was beautiful. It was, so I did have a vaginal birth, and I was like, I don't want any drugs, nothing, whatever. As it went on, I think it was 10 or 12 hours of active labor, not just labor, active labor, which is like for some people 20 minutes. I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I was quivering. I couldn't stand. And the issue for me was getting nerve pain down my legs as well as the contractions. But his head was just stuck like this. So I ended up getting an epidural because my body was so stressed. It was like, no, nothing is coming through. So I had an epidural, and that was, you feel nothing.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that is even a possibility. You feel nothing. So then, you know, 3 hours later, baby comes out.
Yeah, wow. And what about post-training pregnancy, like training post-pregnancy?
Well, I promised myself two things. One, to not care about how I looked. You know, having spent 10 or so, 15 years looking the way I do now, I knew, look, your body's not going to be the same. You're going to have saggy skin. I don't know, but just calm your farm.
Yeah.
Don't just leave that as it is. All right, just leave it. And then the other thing, don't jump into training.
Yeah.
So I swore that to myself for a very long time. But in saying that, I've known a lot of people to develop nasty posture.
Yep.
From continually holding their baby.
Yeah.
Really like that whole kyphosis, rounded shoulders kind of thing. I was like, I don't want that. And not only is it horrible posture, but the pain that comes with it, the injuries that then come with it. So as soon as I felt capable, I just started doing mobility. And I'm talking basic stuff like thoracic rotations, banded rows, anything to keep my posture more neutral and kind of counteract all that hunching I was doing from feeding, from carrying, whatever. So I started doing that, I think 2.5 weeks after I gave birth. Just be 20 minutes, really low key. Like it was not to build muscle. It was not to build strength. It was for nothing other than posture and health, really.
Yeah.
And then as the days and weeks get on, I sort of increase the volume. So 2 more reps of a banded row.
Yeah.
Let's do a walking lunge and see how it feels. So then I progressed to body weight movements.
Yeah.
And I think it maybe 4 weeks, 4.5, I started to add a tiny bit of weight. And I only stuff that felt 100% okay. In the scheme of my training, what it usually was, this was like 5% intensity.
Yeah.
But then by 6 weeks, I was back in a gym training.
Yeah, amazing. Isn't that incredible?
I was mind blown because that's not what I expected.
Yeah, you expect it to be longer. I love how you talked about like accepting your body, because I think a lot of, again, I haven't had a kid, but from the women that I've spoken to, yeah, like that change in you, especially for women who are athletic, I think,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know, that change in your body, and just accepting it. And you've just, you know, grown this little human and
Yeah.
just, yeah, like, and what did you, how much weight, let's talk about weight gain during pregnancy. Did you gain, what are your thoughts on that?
I actually don't even know what my end weight, I think, was 68.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 68 to 70. I'm not quite sure. The only time I knew my weight was when the doctors weighed me. And I saw a doctor, I think, twice in the entire, from maybe 16 weeks onward, I saw a doctor twice.
Mm.
So I reckon, just from visibly looking at myself, maybe a kilo of body fat.
Wow. Do you,
Yeah, I'm surprised.
yeah, do you think that, like, again, I don't, this is probably going to trigger some women, but like, do you think that sometimes women, I mean, yes, you are going to gain some weight. Of course, when you have a baby, of course, like that's normal and healthy. But do you think sometimes women use it as an excuse to gain too much weight?
100%. There will always be an exception to this. You know, I did post something about this once, and I had a few people kind of come at me like, my situation. There are extreme situations. You know, some people have whatever that condition is where they're nauseous the entire time and then they lose heaps of weight and they're very, you know, on the other end of the spectrum. And then you get other people that they'll spit out these circumstances that aren't the norm. So let's put them to the side. Let's put them to the side. I think for the average pregnancy, I do think people use it as an excuse, because I've been through that now, and if you've got self-control, you can use it. If you don't want to put on weight, you have a choice right there. You are not eating for two. I don't think you have to eat that much more to support that growth. I think,
what is it? Isn't it like 300 calories a day or something like that?
You read, and if I look at what I didn't track my food. I mean, I know food inside out.
You've been doing it for so long. You've been tracking for so long. Yeah.
I just know. I was between probably 2,600 and 3,000.
Yep.
Now, let's say my maintenance levels are probably 2,500.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
I didn't eat that much more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to do, I think, when you're like also women who've never tracked before and don't understand food, and like you still have to get adequate protein. You know, you can't go and eat 5,000 calories of chips and, you know, just use it as an excuse. The other thing too is I don't think women realize is like, well, you know, fat loss is hard. Like it's shit. Doing fat loss phases is hard. Like I would rather, you know, like if you gain 20 plus kilos and 10 kilos of that is fat, at some point you have to lose it. It's not healthy to be 35, 40% body fat. And that's going to be hard.
So like hard.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that I still paid attention to my nutrition throughout pregnancy. I was still aware of, I want to eat protein 4 times a day. I want to support my training. I want to have nutrients. I want to fuel my body, A, for exercise, B, because I'm growing a baby, C, for my own health and well-being. I'm so grateful I did that, because, you know, after you have this baby, who knows what your lifestyle is like. Some people do not have the capacity to exercise. Maybe their baby doesn't let them. Maybe they're back at work. How are you going to lose that weight? And you're going to be miserable as fuck because it's harder to lose it. Like, and afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think women think about that. You know, again, I'm not a baby, so I can't comment, but you have. So
I don't think that's down the track for them. I honestly think for some people, it's like this is a great excuse to relax now.
Yeah, just eat.
I understand that to a point, but to me, the repercussions are too much. I don't want to have to lose weight. Like that sucks more.
Oh, Tammie, I hate fat loss. I hate doing dieting. You know, like we're doing this little build phase now, and I'm like, Craig, just pushing I'm not going to push my calories because I don't want to gain heaps of body fat because I just don't enjoy dieting.
No, who does? Who wants to?
No one.
that attention on your baby, because let's face it, dieting, it consumes you. You have to be so on it. You've just got a baby. Like, give the baby that attention.
And you're tired. Sleepless.
You're tired. Harder to lose weight. Again, you sleep. Those first, for me, sleep was like a take what you can. You're not going to weight well if you're not sleeping. So.
Yeah. And what did your body like as you sort of got back into training, and then you were still, I guess you just have naturally gradually lost the body fat and everything's come tightened back up, like your stomach and your cervix and.
Yeah, look, the skin around my stomach it's looser. Like, I think like if you were to pump up a balloon and then let it deflate, you know how it's like wrinkly?
Yeah. Which makes sense because you've just stretched the fuck out. Yeah.
So it's like that, but honestly, I don't really notice unless, let's say I took a video of myself training and I can see the skin sort of folding over my shorts. And I was like, oh, well, that didn't happen before. But again, who actually gives a fuck? Like, who gives a fuck that there's a piece of skin hanging over my short?
Yeah.
It's a price. If that's the price to pay for a baby, then cool.
Yeah. And I'm sure as time goes on, naturally, like some of my friends who they said it does, like it's naturally sort of just takes time.
I think it does because, look, I had Billy, I think maybe 18, 19 weeks ago, and it is slowly going back. I trained today and I could see in the mirror, I was like, I can kind of see my abs again. Like, it does go back to normal, which is insane considering that amount of stretch.
Well, I think it's just a test, like, to you, obviously so healthy and eating so much and nourishing your body, and you had a lot of muscle going into pregnancy. Like, and I think, like, I can imagine once you've had a baby being so strong and mobile is only going to be good, because just like all the running around with the baby, the lifting, like you seem like you've recovered really quickly.
It's actually really heavy carrying a baby, and I'm like, oh, my arm's sore. And then I look at other mums that don't train. I'm like, I have no idea how you're holding that 8-kilo child without being like agonizing pain. I don't know how to do it, but yeah.
Have you worked with any? So what about it? Because obviously you're an athlete. So what about if there's women listening to this and like, well, I'm sort of trained, but I'm not like a level like Tammie is. What advice would you give them for training? Like, should they work with someone, do you think, or?
I think for peace of mind that they should. So just to take that fear away. So I have women, quite a few women came to me when I was pregnant, hey, can you coach me? And I was like, yes. What we do is your doctor, your physio, they are the boss. Tell me what you need, and then tell me how you feel. Got the guidance of the doctors and the physio or the obstetrician, and then it's really let's go by feel. And they'll say that they each have their own things. Hey, a hip thrust feels strange. Hey, a squat feels strange, whatever. All right, well, let's not do it.
Yeah.
Why test the waters? If it feels wrong, don't do it. But I think the biggest rule is don't do stuff you haven't done before.
That makes sense.
Like for me, I'm not an endurance athlete. Don't go enter a half marathon because I haven't done it. But I read an article on this woman. She ran a marathon. She was like 32 weeks pregnant, but she had many marathons.
That's right. Yeah. So don't go and try to become a CrossFit athlete when you fall pregnant. Yeah.
Stuff you've already done.
Yeah.
So what you've already done, what you're comfortable with, always have the guidance of those professionals. They know your body. They know pregnancy a lot better than anyone else does. And then definitely just go get a coach to think for you. You don't want to be in the gym thinking, oh, I'm too scared to do some air squats because you'll end up just fluffing around.
Yeah. Or maybe just do nothing. And I think like it can only be beneficial to do some strength, whatever it might be, do some sort of training because you want to stay active as well.
Absolutely. It's such anytime I posted stuff, I'd get these people that are like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. And it was nice, but I'm like, it's really not that amazing.
Yeah.
I'm human, I'm moving. And man, these little, the bubba, the fetus, whatever stage they're at, they are resilient.
Yeah.
I was doing handstand push-ups at, I think, 20-something weeks.
Wow. You guys can try to do handstand push-ups if you've never done them. Remember, Tammie's an athlete. We're not recommending you do that. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's doing what you've done and having that professional guidance is good.
But I really, I had an amazing midwife, and she had said to me, I think it was a week before I had Billy, I was like, I know he's coming soon. And I'm like, everyone's like, no, your belly hasn't dropped, because he was sitting so high. And she goes, I don't think that he's ever going to drop. I think your core is strong and that's what's holding him there. He never did drop. And then I didn't have a lot of abdominal separation as well, because I did stay fit and active that entire time.
Yeah.
And there's no separation anymore. It's gone.
Amazing. That's so cool.
There was a finger of separation. I mean, everyone has that.
Yep.
But how? I don't even understand. But anyway, she just says, you stayed active the whole way through, and that's why.
So cool. Yeah.
There's another, right, to protect your body, to stay healthy throughout that pregnancy. Just, if you want to train, go train.
Yeah. Yeah. And be good for your mental health as well, I think.
So good. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Throughout pregnancy, I had a really good pregnancy. I didn't really have any symptoms.
Well, that's because you're so healthy. You're so healthy.
I mean, I'd say I was lucky as well. I don't really know. But now I've lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Oh, just training during pregnancy and looking after yourself. I think it can only make it easier once you have that baby.
Totally lost my train of thought, Kitty.
It's all right. Still got the baby brain, maybe 20 weeks later.
I'm just
saying, I think, Emma, my business partner in Saturée, she works with a lot of women who have babies, and she's talked to me a lot about women who have lots of morning sickness and those symptoms of signs of estrogen dominance. So like your health leading into the pregnancy will have a direct effect on the severity of the symptoms that you experience. And you're so muscle and your health, and it's just so good too. You think like I think obviously competing is a very extreme sport. Like you're dieting down to very low levels of body fat. It's not, you couldn't say that it's healthy, but I think there's ways you can do it that make it healthier. Like you do it, like you have always have off seasons. You eat a lot of food and you don't spend. I mean, I know you had that period you said where you did a lot of shows back to back, and at the end you were like, oh fuck, that was too much. Like, you realize, but I've always looked at you and thought, like, if anyone that I know who's like a healthy competitor, it's you.
I think so too. And you know what? My clients, they're the same. It's so funny because this really pisses me off, but girls will brag, 2-3 weeks into a 20-week prep. I'm so tired. I'm so hungry. These 1,500 calories. And I'm like, man, I would not be bragging about that because you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if you fucked up that far out, I'm like, if you're eating that low calories too, I'm like, what have you been doing before?
When your body adapts to that and you need to drop more. But like all of my clients, we will have a solid off season, 6 to 12 months at least before we get to prep. So they're not at 1,500 calories when they start. And that's what I had always done. I'd always eaten a lot of food in an off season.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. And the thing is, how do you build muscle? Like all these women that would be not eating enough. It's like, well, you want to try and improve your physique. You can't do that unless you're eating in a surplus. Like you don't have to be a huge surplus, but yeah, they're just too scared of having a little bit of body fat, being heavier on the scales, but you're just training so much better.
You're training so much better. And, those girls who don't want to do that, sadly, when it comes to them getting on stage, guarantee they look around and they're like, fuck, I wish I did that off season, because they're tiny.
Yeah.
And it can diet down.
Yeah, you're right. The hard work is the muscle building and the length of time it takes and the dedication. You're right. The dieting's quicker. It's,
And logically, I think in a way it's easy because you see immediate results week to week in a prep. you see visible changes and it's motivating. Whereas in an off season, you don't really see the muscle growth. You see cellulite, you see yourself getting a little chunky here and there, and it's like you don't really know if the muscle's growing or not. And you just look in the mirror, and personally, you know me, I love the thick and juicy. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. You always look good. I was like, no, look how juicy you're looking. You look good, but you're strong as well. Like I like being strong, and I think when you're dieting, I like to the improving my numbers. And it's just so hard to do that when you're fucking like not eating enough. It's the worst.
It's even worse. Like you might look great, but you are so pathetic and weak.
Yeah, totally.
People would think, oh man, she must be so strong because you're shredded as fuck. And really you're like, I'm struggling to walk down the street. No.
I'm so hungry. Yeah. I think, and you know what too, and you'd probably agree with this, like once you put the work in and built the muscle, if you're not dieting or in a building phase, maintenance is really easy.
Yeah. I think if anyone wants to, like if we could say, if you really want to achieve that body and find it easy to maintain, put in 5 to 6 years of hard work and
muscle building. Yeah.
And then it's not so hard. Like my training right now is 3 to 4, 5 days a week, 3 to 4 weights, maybe 1 CrossFit session of, my weight session will consist of maybe 4 exercises in 1 hour because Billy's in creche. And it is not at my usual intensity because at the moment I just don't feel like it. Like I'm training well, but I just don't feel like pounding myself.
Yeah.
And my body has still responded really well.
Yeah.
Because of all that work I did way back in the day.
That's right. And so like, because I always use this example when I talk to women, I'm like, because sometimes they message you going, well, you seem like you're always wanting to try and get stronger, Kitty. I said, well, that's just because I enjoy it, but I go through stages where I'm focused and not so focused. But I'm like, once you say like you get strong, you build this physique, you're like, yep, I'm happy with this. You only have to do 1/3 of the volume. Like if you can maintain weights, you can maintain it doing 1/3 of the work that you put in, which is fucking incredible, I think.
When we moved to Townsville, so my show had been cancelled in October 2021, I think. Then I moved to Townsville and I'm like, I'm just going to happily sit where I am. And, I did put on some weight, but I was obviously, I don't want to be comp physique.
Yeah.
But I put on to what my happy place was. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I fucking love how I look. And I mean, genuinely to the core. Like I was eating, perhaps it might have been about 2,500 and I was tracking.
Yeah.
But once I surpassed that, I would put on a tiny bit of weight.
How good's that, your maintenance? Like you're small. Yeah. How much do you weigh? Like how much did you weigh back then? Tammie's not.
61, yeah.
Yeah, so 61 kilos, maintaining at 2,500 calories is like every woman's dream.
Yeah. I was like, this is to walk around with abs, to have, I just loved how I looked so much. I'm like, I am just cruising now. This is not hard at all.
Yeah.
Not hard at all. And I'm sure any female could wonder, what does it feel like to truly love the way you look? I don't think many people can say that. Like, it was fucking bliss.
Yeah, I agree. And but if you can just put that work in to build the muscle, and you can have more flexibility, like you can have a few drinks every now and then, you can go out to eat. Not like you're like, oh my God, I'm stuck in, because it's that, I reckon it's sort of like the lifestyle lean, you call it. Like it's not shredded, but it's lean. But also too, when you've got more muscle, you can hold a bit high body fat and you still look good. So I think, it's that muscle, you ladies, I know crap on about it all the fucking time, but I'm like, you just got to touch those weights, those heavier weights, for like, just do it, put the work in.
Put the work in. Your metabolism eventually just thrives off you moving that way after so long. Like, I wouldn't have been like this 10 years ago. My maintenance was probably 1,600 10 years ago. I think it was about 1,600 10 years ago. And, while I was in that place where I'm like, I love my body, freedom with food, I was not tracking meticulously. I was still drinking. Like, I fucking love wine.
I love how to. Yeah.
It was just a really good balance, and I wish that people would put in the time to eventually get to that point.
Yeah, freedom. I love what, yeah. And all clients say that too, the tracking, it's like you think it's restrictive, but it eventually gives you freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, to me, tracking's not torturous.
Nah.
Well, I eat the same every day anyway. So it's like, oh, I might track for a day. All right, this is what I'm doing. And I'll check in with myself a month later and just see if I've slipped either side.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. And it is just such a good tool because sometimes, like I find if I'm not tracking, like especially now I'm trying to eat so much food, I will undereat carbs. Like it's just naturally easy to do that. And then I drop weight. And so like you're perfect. Like I think the tracking, it's just a good tool to like, what am I doing? You know, because
regardless of if it's muscle growth or weight loss or strength performance, you know, it's probably even more important, like you said, to track when you're in a surplus, because I think people abuse that. I'm in a surplus. I'm strength.
Well, don't you reckon it's a fine line between maintenance, deficit and surplus? It's like not that much. Like I even am amazed, like I'll drop 100 calories and I'll start losing weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. That's why I check in with myself once a month, because 100 calories a day, that's 700 calories a week.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit. And that could be piece of cheese on a sandwich, which seems like nothing.
Yeah, it is so easy to, and like you say, if you don't track it, you just don't know. You don't. Yeah, it's a good, trust us, everyone.